It was just another quiet night in the living room. I had settled into my favorite corner of the couch, ready to unwind with a Netflix show. Little did I know my son would join me unexpectedly, and the evening would turn into something much more than I could have imagined. It wasn't the kind of night you plan for. It was the kind of night that stays with you long after the credits roll. But then, out of nowhere, he asked me something that would change everything. "Hey there, I'd love to know where you're watching from. Drop your city in the comments. And if you're enjoying the story so far, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe." Now, let's get into it. The house was quiet, the kind of stillness that wraps around you at the end of a long day when everyone else is off doing their own thing. It was just me and the soft hum of the TV, flickering light from the screen casting gentle shadows around the room. I'd settled in, stretched out, grabbed the blanket I keep on the couch for moments like this, and clicked on my show. I've always been a sucker for a good mystery, but tonight I didn't really care about the plot. I just needed a bit of escape. The house had always felt a little too big since my son had moved out. You'd think the silence would be something I'd get used to by now, but it never seemed to stick. I'd always told myself that it was okay, that things changed, but every so often, a wave of loneliness would hit me. I was about halfway through an episode when I heard the familiar sound of footsteps on the stairs. I turned just in time to see my son, Ben, standing in the doorway. He didn't say anything right away, just leaned against the frame and watched me. He was taller than I remembered, with that same scruffy beard he'd grown in the last few months, his eyes still full of that boyish energy even as he got older. It felt strange, how quickly he'd grown up. Yet there he was, still my son. "Mind if I join you?" he asked, his voice low, a little hesitant, like he wasn't sure if it was okay. "Of course," I said, smiling. "Come on in." Ben dropped onto the couch beside me, pulling his feet up and curling into the corner. It was odd, seeing him here again like this, his presence so familiar, yet so distant at the same time. The air between us was different now, less crowded with the everyday chatter of parent-child life. He was more adult now, but still, my son. We settled into an easy silence, the kind that feels comfortable when you don't have to force words. I didn't ask him about his day, or what was going on in his life. Somehow, it felt like the moment didn't need it. We just existed together, side by side, letting the screen pull us into its world. About halfway through the episode, I glanced over at him. Ben wasn't really watching the show anymore. His eyes were focused on the screen, but his expression was different, serious, almost. It felt like something was on his mind, something more than just the random thoughts that came with a casual evening. "You okay?" I asked, my voice quieter than usual. He looked at me, but didn't answer right away. For a moment, I thought maybe he hadn't heard me, but then he exhaled deeply and set the remote down on the coffee table. He seemed to hesitate for a second, like he was trying to figure out how to start whatever he was about to say. "Mom, can I ask you something?" He finally asked, his voice a little strained, like it was harder to get the words out than he expected. I felt a twinge in my chest, a mix of curiosity and concern. "Of course," I said, shifting a little so I could face him fully. "What's on your mind?" Ben's gaze flickered to the TV again, but it was clear he wasn't really seeing it. It's kind of personal," he said, still looking anywhere but at me. I could feel the weight of his words already, like the air had changed, and we weren't just watching a show anymore. I held my breath, waiting, not knowing what was coming, but knowing it was important. And whatever it was going to take this moment somewhere I hadn't expected. I waited, my heart beating a little faster than usual. It wasn't like Ben to be nervous around me. Sure, we'd had our moments, but he'd always been the kind of kid who was easy to talk to, who didn't shy away from the hard conversations. So this, whatever it was, felt different. He shifted in his seat, rubbing the back of his neck, as if trying to ease the tension that had settled there. I couldn't help but notice how much he'd changed in the last couple of years. The once carefree, wide-eyed kid I knew seemed like a distant memory, replaced by someone who carried more weight on his shoulders than he probably let on. You know, when you get older, people start asking you all sorts of questions, he said, his voice quieter now, almost like he was talking to himself. Stuff like, what's your plan? Where do you see yourself in 5 years? It's like everyone expects you to have it all figured out. But sometimes I don't even know where to start. I felt a pang in my chest at his words. I'd been watching him grow into himself for years, and somehow I'd missed just how much uncertainty he carried with him. I wanted to reach out, to wrap my arms around him like I used to when he was little, but I held back. He wasn't a little boy anymore. He was a young man, and this was something he needed to navigate on his own, even if I could help guide him. I get that, I said softly. Life doesn't come with a roadmap. But you know you don't have to have it all figured out right away. It's okay to take your time. Ben nodded slowly, but there was still that distant look in his eyes. It's not just that, Mom. He trailed off again, and I could see the struggle in his face. It was like there was a wall he was trying to tear down, but something was holding him back. I don't know. I've been feeling like I'm not living up to what everyone expects me to be. The words hung in the air for a moment, heavy and raw. I was used to Ben being self-assured, even a little stubborn at times, so hearing him speak like this, vulnerable, unsure, caught me off guard. I felt a deep ache in my chest, wanting so badly to fix whatever was going on inside his head. Ben, I started gently, you don't have to be anything other than who you are. I know it might feel like there's pressure to be something else, but trust me, the people who love you want you to be happy. And that's what matters most. He met my eyes then, his expression softening just a little. I know, Mom. I've been thinking a lot about what I want to do with my life, and I keep asking myself if I'm on the right path. I don't want to disappoint anyone, especially you. His words hit me like a wave, crashing over me with the weight of something I hadn't realized he was carrying. I had never wanted him to feel like he had to live up to some impossible standard, but somewhere along the way, I must have made him feel that way. My heart ached for him, for the way he had taken on this burden alone, without ever asking for help. You could never disappoint me, Ben, I said, my voice thick with emotion. You've already accomplished so much by being true to yourself, and that's all I've ever wanted for you, to be yourself, to follow your heart. Whatever path you choose, I'll be right here, supporting you. He let out a shaky breath, looking down at his hands for a moment before meeting my gaze again. Thanks, Mom, he whispered, and for a moment we just sat there, the silence between us comfortable, even though it was full of unspoken things. I could tell there was more he wanted to say, more questions he had, but for now, I could see that he just needed to hear those simple words from me. The reassurance, the truth that no matter what happened, he was enough. The show was long forgotten now, the screen flashing silently in the background. But that moment, the quiet understanding that had settled between us, was louder than any dialogue we could have been watching. It was the kind of moment that felt like a bridge, one that connected us in a way I hadn't expected, but desperately needed. And for the first time in a while, I felt like we were truly seeing each other, not just as mother and son, but as two people who were navigating this complicated, unpredictable life together. The quiet that followed his words was different now, not awkward, but filled with something more profound. I could feel the shift in the air, like we had both just stepped into something deeper, something that connected us in a way we hadn't quite tapped into before. For all the conversations we'd had over the years, all the lessons I'd tried to teach him, this conversation, felt like it was peeling back layers, showing us each other in a new light. Ben shifted again, this time sitting up a little straighter, his face more serious than I'd ever seen it. Mom, he said, his voice quieter now, as if he were choosing each word carefully. There's something I've been thinking about for a while. It's not just about my future or what I'm supposed to do. It's about how I've been looking at everything. Like the choices I've made, the things I thought were important. I wasn't sure where he was going with this, but my instincts told me it was something significant. I set the remote down and leaned forward slightly, giving him my full attention. I wanted him to know that whatever was coming, he didn't have to face it alone. "Go on," I said softly, my voice steady. Ben paused, like he was trying to find the right words. He ran his hand through his hair, his usual way of working through a tough thought, then let out a long breath. "I don't know, Mom. I think I've been so focused on what everyone else wants from me, what's expected of me. I think I've forgotten what I really want." I could feel my heart ache again, this time for him, for the weight he must have been carrying all on his own. The pressure to succeed, to fit into some mold that others had made for him, it had consumed him more than I realized. "I've always tried to make you proud," he continued, his voice quieter now, almost hesitant. "But I think I've been so wrapped up in that, in trying to meet other people's expectations, that I lost sight of what makes me happy." The words hung between us, both raw and vulnerable. He was admitting something to me, and maybe even to himself, that I'd always hoped he'd find the courage to face. The idea that his happiness, his peace of mind, had to come from within, not from the approval of others. I reached out and placed a hand on his, giving it a gentle squeeze. "Ben, I've always been proud of you. Not because of what you've done or how much you've achieved, but because of who you are. And you don't have to live up to anyone else's expectations. The only one you need to make proud is yourself." He looked down at our hands, his thumb brushing over my knuckles, then nodded slowly. His eyes were shiny, but not with tears. More like the weight of everything he'd been holding in was starting to lift. He looked up at me then, his gaze soft but searching, like he was trying to piece together something that had eluded him for years. "I guess I've been so scared of making the wrong choice," he said after a beat. "Like if I don't follow the path everyone thinks I should, I'll mess up or disappoint you. But I don't want to keep living in that fear." I could feel my chest tighten with emotion, and my voice came out a little hoarse as I answered, "Fear is a tough thing to carry around, Ben. But sometimes it's the mistakes, the things we learn along the way, that teach us the most. And I'm not going anywhere. I'm here, no matter what." His eyes softened at my words, and for the first time all night, I saw a flicker of relief pass through him. The kind of relief that comes when someone lets go of something heavy they've been holding for too long. "You've always made me feel like I could be myself," he said, his voice barely above a whisper, but it carried so much weight. "I don't think I realized how much I needed to hear that from you." I smiled, trying to hold back the tears that threatened to come. "You've always been you, Ben. You've just got to believe that's enough." We sat there for a few moments longer, the TV still playing in the background, but neither of us really paying attention to it anymore. It was one of those rare moments when time seemed to slow, and all that mattered was the connection between us. Finally, Ben stood up, stretching his arms overhead. "Thanks, Mom," he said, his voice more steady now, like a weight had been lifted off his shoulders. "I needed to talk to you about all this. I feel, I don't know, lighter. Like maybe I don't have to figure it all out right away." "You don't," I said, my voice full of warmth. "Take your time. It's all part of the journey." He nodded, and for the first time in a long while, I saw the quiet confidence in him that had always been there beneath the surface. He was still my son, but in that moment, I saw him not just as the boy I'd raised, but as the man he was becoming. The one who would continue to navigate the world, make mistakes, and grow. And I would be there every step of the way, supporting him as he figured it out. As he made his way to the door, he paused and turned back to me. "Oh, and Mom." He smiled, a small, genuine smile that tugged at my heart. "Maybe we should do this more often. Just hang out, you know." I smiled back, my heart full. I'd like that. The next few days felt different. It wasn't as though everything magically clicked into place for Ben, or that some grand transformation happened overnight. But there was a shift, a quieter understanding between us. I noticed it in the way he'd drop by after work, more often than he had before, or how he'd sit down to talk, not because he had something specific to say, but because he just wanted to be present. And I started to realize that, maybe for the first time, Ben was starting to feel comfortable in his own skin, like he was learning to trust himself more, without worrying about what anyone else thought. I had a few moments to reflect on our conversation. The weight of it still lingered in my heart, but it felt more like a soft presence, reminding me of the importance of listening, of giving him space to figure things out, but also reminding me how much he still needed me, even if it wasn't in the way I thought. It was the following weekend when Ben called me. It was early on a Saturday morning, the house still quiet, the soft light of the sun creeping through the curtains. I was sipping my coffee in the kitchen when my phone buzzed on the counter. "Hey, Mom." His voice was cheerful, but there was something different about it, something light. "I've been thinking, how about we go to that diner we used to visit? You know, the one near the lake? I got a morning off and figured we could catch up." I could feel the warmth of the moment before he even finished speaking. The diner by the lake had been a regular spot for us when he was younger. It was one of those places that felt like time had stopped, still the same worn-down booths, the familiar smell of coffee and pancakes. It was a place full of memories, memories that were simple but so precious. "I'd love that," I said, my voice steady but a little emotional. "What time do you want to meet?" "I'll pick you up around 10, he replied. "See you then, okay?" We hung up, and I stood there for a moment, feeling a flood of emotions I wasn't quite prepared for. It wasn't just about going to the diner. It was about how we had reached a place in our relationship where he could invite me out like this. Not because he had to, but because he genuinely wanted to. It made me realize that sometimes it's not the grand gestures or the big events that matter most. It's the quiet, everyday moments we share, the simple decisions to spend time together, to check in with each other. That morning as I got ready, I found myself thinking back to all the times I'd worrying about whether I was doing enough as a mother, whether Ben would grow up feeling like he didn't get the support he needed, whether I'd failed in some way. But what I had come to understand in that conversation, what I hadn't fully grasped until then, was that the work we'd done as a family wasn't finished with just one talk. It was ongoing. Every moment, every conversation,